everyone. It's still morning, I think. My name is Anne Hege Simonsen. I'm the vice chair of the board of the Rainforest Foundation Norway, and it's my privilege to present the next session of this seminar. I believe that I speak on behalf of the entire board when I say that I'm very proud of this organization. And I would like to take this opportunity to point out two aspects that is particularly relevant for this session, I think, of why I'm proud. I'm proud that the Rainforest Foundation Norway is a great communicator. It has been mentioned by people earlier today, but they communicate very well with politicians, with environmental peers, and with the general public alike. They continuously generate invaluable, updated and accessible documentation and information regarding the state of the rainforests. And you will see what I mean in a second. But closely related to this is another aspect with the Rainforest Foundation that I'm very proud of. I'm proud of the long-standing relations the Rainforest Foundation Norway has with its vast and impressive network of international partners, many of which are here today. Our partners are the people who feel the consequences of the many threats to the rainforests on their own communities, and they fight them every single day. And we will learn more from them also in a little while. So now, I have the great honor to present Ellen Hofsvang from the Policy Department of the Rainforest Foundation Norway, and Ricardo, cartographer from Grid Arendal. They will give us the main headlines from the fresh report, State of the Rainforest. It looks like this, you've all got it. Ellen has been the editor of this wonderful piece of work, and Ricardo is responsible for the beautiful cartography and also enlightening cartography, I will say. So please give them a warm welcome.
Thank you, Anne Hege. That's it. Before diving into this report and the main findings, I'd like to continue on the same tune as Anne Hege said, emphasizing our partners in rainforest countries, because this is really cooperation. There's a strong cooperation behind this work as well. When you read it, you will see that a main part of this publication is actually case studies or stories from 5 different rainforest countries, facilitated by our partner organizations. So that we hope that cooperation and also the cooperation with Grid, making some of this information available and easier, in a better way than text, make this important message easily available to everyone. So it's a publication based on cooperation.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I just want to start saying that I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm very happy to see known faces, colleagues, and friends. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, first and foremost, for involving us in this joint work. As you have heard, I contributed creating the maps and the graphics, the cartographic documentation for this report. And I think that between forest and maps, in whatever meaning you want to intend maps, there is a very intrinsic relationship. Maps are very important in the groundwork that we do in monitoring forests, monitoring deforestation, in assessing forest resources, very important for claiming local communities and indigenous peoples' right on the forest. So you would see in the forest that there are many different maps at many different levels. And I hope that all together, in these different scales, they give you a good overview about the subject that we are covering inside this report. So I'm very glad that at one point in, I don't know, December, January, February, Ellen decided that this report should have been very visual, including a lot of maps, in order to display the results of this research and the result of these findings.
So, what did we find? We've heard this morning why the tropical forest is of vital importance for future development. But despite increased awareness about the key role played by the tropical forest in solving our most urgent global environment and development challenges, the rate of tropical deforestation remains alarmingly high. The figures vary, as I'll get back to, but probably as much as 1.1 million square kilometers of tropical forest is lost since 2000. This is an area 3 times the size of Norway. And if you look at this map of original and current forest cover, the current forest cover look very green. What is not shown on this map is the very extensive degradation that is going on, which is a problem that has not got enough attention. We often focus on total deforestation, but the slow degradation taking place in the world's rainforest and other tropical forests is a major problem. Some estimates indicate that at least half of the remaining tropical forests are degraded. And I think this gives you sort of global overview. You can see in all main tropical or all main rainforest regions, the deforestation is continuing. We're losing more of the forest for each year. So, is it all lost? When Rainforest Foundation launched the State of the Rainforest report 5 years ago, which was a Norwegian thinner version, we emphasized that there are 3 large rainforest areas left on the planet, and that it's urgent to protect these areas. It's the Amazon, the Congo Basin, and rainforests in the islands of Southeast Asia and Oceania. And the largest tract of remaining rainforest is found on the island of New Guinea. Today, it is still possible to save these 3 regions of large rainforest for the future. Looking at what has happened these last 5 years in the respective regions, you see that you can see that change is possible, but also you can see that change will not come by itself. Brazil has managed to reduce deforestation drastically, and we'll hear more about that shortly. In the Congo Basin, deforestation rates have been kept relatively low. There are many reasons behind this, but one of the reasons is a moratorium on new logging concessions, strongly advocated by NGOs in DRC. In Indonesia, despite political statements to reduce the deforestation and initial reforms in the forest sector, we see a continued dramatic deforestation. Indonesia now loses as much forest as Brazil, despite having far less forests to start with. And with the result with regard to climate or CO2 emissions, you can see in this last graphics here. You see the green column is CO2 emissions increasing drastically in Indonesia, and as Brazil has reduced its deforestation, it's reducing its emissions. And as you probably all know, the deforestation and degradation of these tropical forests is the main reason why forestry and land use change account for 10 to 15% of global CO2 emissions. A short note on statistics. It has been surprisingly difficult to actually get the numbers or the figures for how much forest is left, where is it intact, what are the rates of deforestation. And we have the FAO is the main international body responsible for providing forest statistics, but they use forest definitions and methods that really, I won't get into detail, but it doesn't give the right answers. And then the last years, you've got very interesting remote sensing initiatives, which has improved our knowledge about the forest quite a lot, but which also have problems. Among other things, mainly they don't separate between plantations and natural forest. So there's an urgent need to improve the monitoring of forest. And that is necessary if we are going to get the right analysis of the reason behind deforestation. This is deforestation. As part of this report, I traveled to Indonesia with partner organizations VARSI and YMP, which are in the audience here. And they took us to local communities living in the rainforest areas in both Sulawesi and Sumatra. And in these areas, you can see in action, and you see extremely clearly in the landscape what we in this report dryly call drivers of deforestation. You see plantations, palm oil or monoculture tree plantations eating its way into the forest and replacing old, natural, diverse forest with monocultures. People living in this forest see how this development is getting closer month by month, or they have already lost their traditional lands and have to move. The drivers of deforestation vary from region to region. We have just put up 2 graphics here of main producers of palm oil and soy, and you can see how it's heavily concentrated in some of the main rainforest countries. The drivers of deforestation vary, and they're complex. Often subsistence agriculture, including shifting cultivation, has been blamed for deforestation, and it is a problem in some areas. What you see now is a different development, though. You see the deforestation facing all these 3 remaining large rainforest areas now. It's large-scale clearing of forest land, and the drivers behind it are industrial agriculture, plantations, logging, mining, oil and gas, extractive industries. A few examples from the report. Almost 75% of Peru's Amazon is covered by planned or operative oil and gas concessions. Indonesia intends to double the area of oil palm, and neighboring Papua New Guinea faces a comparable threat. Most of PNG's commercial accessible rainforests have been allocated for logging, and special licenses to convert thousands of square kilometers to forest to oil palm plantations are causing controversy. You see, in all these rainforest regions, you have development plans and extraction plans and on the table that if they are implemented, well, let me say it differently. They need to be changed for the forest to be conserved for the future. And that is the big challenge facing all these regions. To be able to do that, it might be a good idea to look to Brazil.
Yeah, Ellen briefly talked already about it. I remember 5 years ago, I was sitting in this audience, assisting to the debate about the success in reducing deforestation in Brazil. It was Rainforest 20th anniversary. And it was right before leaving for a trip to Mato Grosso, one of the most deforesting countries in the country, state in the country. And by then they were discussing, I was just listening, what were the reasons for this big achievement? What was the reason for this success story? Well, the reasons we can today identify in a multiplicity of different levels of actions, starting from government policies and law enforcement, put in place by the federal government and also by the local states. At another level, we see the creation of the Amazon Fund in 2008, which provides incentives for conserving and protecting existing forests in Brazil, and of which Norway is a quite big contributor with the pledge of about up to $1 billion by 2015. On another level, which is probably more important for the audience here, there is a great work from the civil society, from the Brazilian civil society, which puts a huge pressure both on the government in applying strategies to reduce deforestation, but also on the private sector, namely on the soy producers and on the cattle industry. We can see that from 2004 to 2009, actually, deforestation in Brazil, in the Amazonian part of Brazil, went down to about 73%. And that's a huge result. This sort of diagram shows how many actions are put in place at the different levels in order to achieve this result. At the beginning, we talked about maps and the importance of maps inside the forest business or the forest issue. They played a very important role in Brazil as well. In 2000, and it's good that we have this here because I don't remember. In 2005, the Brazilian Institute for Space Research launched DETER, which is a satellite monitoring system that provides real-time information on deforestation. Real-time information combined with the openness and the transparency of this information, the availability of this information, helped both law enforcement operation to be quicker and to be more focused, but also civil society and the media to follow up what are the actions that the government and other institutions are taking in order to reduce deforestation. Deforestation that was declared in 2004 in one of the highest peaks of deforestation in Brazil, a national priority to fight. 5 years later now, today, we could ask ourselves, is this enough? Are we happy enough? Statistics shows that from 2009 to 2013, the decrease in deforestation slowed down quite a lot. From 2009 to 2013, the decrease was only 22%, while if you take a look at the last 2 years, you will see a slight increase in deforestation rates. This is due, again, to many different causes. But still, Brazil today, despite this huge effort and despite the very great results, remains the country with the largest annual deforestation in the world. What's interesting here is to see the complexity of the actions that are put in place in order to tackle a very complex issue as deforestation. Deforestation has many causes, many different effects that we are not analyzing here, but it's good to see that to tackle a complex issue, the government and the civil society and other institutions put in place a complex set of actions. We can go a little bit deeper in this subject, taking the example of one of the drivers of deforestation, which is illegal logging, which is conducted in all the 3 regions where rainforest tropical rainforest is mainly present. Illegal logging is the biggest of the forest crimes or the environmental crimes. It accounts for around, the higher estimate says that it accounts for $100 billion per year, which, for giving you an example, is half the size of the global drug trafficking in the world. On top of this, forest crime is depleting environmental resources for local population, but also for the country, and it's depriving many national economies from a lot of revenue. Illegal crime, given the fact that it's such a huge business, is a very complex sort of system of ways that are put in place in order to conduct this crime or to obtain these resources illegally from the forest up to the end consumer. You can see in this fairly complex diagram, but that gives the complexity a little bit of the phenomenon. We can have ways to conduct illegal logging at the source, in the forest or in the plantation, in the protected area, cutting trees that are not supposed to be cut, or creating or asking for falsified permits in order to log these trees, or to bribe local authorities in order to obtain transportation permits and take the wood away from these areas. There are, given the complexity and given the importance or the size of this business or this crime, there are more sophisticated ways and more reliable ways in order to hide the wood that is illegally logged, such as processing the roundwood, the logs, into pulp, paper, or chips that are mixed with legally logged wood. This is making the traceability of the origin of this wood basically impossible. So it's very difficult to say if inside paper there is percentage or not of illegally logged wood. Also, depending on the context and depending on the scale of the local business where forest crime is conducted, we notice that this crime in some cases take the aspect of organized crime. We have militias that are being found by these sort of operations. A very well-documented case is Al-Shabaab in Somalia, where they get a lot of revenues in taxing the charcoal trade inside the region, but especially outside when they export wood to the Gulf countries, for example. So we saw in a way that to tackle something that is complex like deforestation, we need a series of actions that are structured and at different levels. The same would be for, in this case, illegal logging, where merged and joint actions would be needed in order to reduce and then arrest this process. I don't know if I'm taking too much time. Just tell me. So, in this respect, another important point would be the investment of the public sector and of the private sector, not directly in companies or organizations that are contributing to illegal logging, but in general in companies, national and international, that are contributing somehow to deforestation. And for this, I leave the floor to Ellen.
Yeah, you can't leave me with this figure alone. Yeah, Ricardo gave us some insights into the illegal or the forest crime driving deforestation. But stopping illegal forest clearance is not enough. Much of deforestation of the rainforest is legal, and it's driven by both internal and external demand. And the distinction between legal and illegal may also be blurred, not very clear. if an investor invests in a legal company that is conducting illegal logging in, for instance, PNG, the investment may be legal, but the money invested nevertheless contributes to illegal clearing of rainforest. So the banking and finance sector indirectly contributes to forest destruction by providing the capital that makes it possible for companies to exploit forest resources. And Norway's government pension fund Global is a good example. This is what you see here. It's the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, and it invests at least $21 billion in industries that constitutes greatest threat to the world's rainforest. Maybe you can explain what we see here.
Well, they say that explaining a map is not good because the map doesn't work, right? But we can see that Norway has equities in many companies, both in rainforest countries, but mainly in other countries. Equities that are utilized or that provide the sort of financial ground for operations that those other companies in other countries are conducting in rainforest countries. So it's mostly an indirect mechanism that provides funds for companies such as logging companies, mining companies, oil companies, to conduct operations that are destroying the forest. This map is produced out of a very intense work that was carried out by Rainforest Foundation in the 2012 Beauty and the Beast publication, if I'm not mistaken, and checks every single operation of a lot of companies in order to identify the magnitude of this process. And I think it gives a very good and very warning idea about how those money are invested in these sectors.
In 2012, Norges Bank included tropical deforestation as a priority issue under its strategy for climate change risk management. So this issue of deforestation is somehow included in their policy, but there's still a lack of concrete strategy and follow-up on this issue, and you can read more about that in this report. Of course, I don't have time to go into details. But this, the financial sector has huge impact on deforestation, and so far they have been left out of the debate to a large degree, maybe with the exception of Norwegian pension fund. But they have huge impact, and to be able to stop deforestation, it's absolutely necessary to include or to have changes also in investment policies. That's why two of the recommendations that you can read in this report concerns this issue. So we should just
we are running out of time. We just close with this. Unfortunately, we're running out of time because this is quite important.
Our partners are going
this is, of course, what our partners are going to tell much better than I do. This is something that comes at the end, but not because it's in order of importance. As a human geographer, I've always been struck by the fact that in all the definitions of a city, for example, you have all the static elements. You have the houses, you have the buildings, you have the bridges, you have the roads, but you'd never see the people there. And the same, in a way, for most people, I would say, happens with the forest. The forest is not only a group, an ensemble of trees, more or less dense or more or less tall, but it's constituted also by the people that live there. Forests are home for millions of people that depend on the forest for their livelihoods. And they have very important and very closed social, cultural, and spiritual tie to the forest. I like to say that the forest is depending on the people that live there as much as the people living there is depending from the forest. But I'm cutting it short, and I let our friends and colleagues from the three different rainforest regions to explain this much better. Thank you.